Namanda, 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 namanda. Okay, good morning, everyone. Almost everyone's over there. No, I'm good. Nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us for our July Shotsuki monthly memorial and adult Dharma service. I'd like to begin the service reading the July Shotsuki names. Etsuko Aikawa, Jun Ted Ajari, Umeno Ajari, Mrs. Akiyoshi, Takamichi Akiyoshi, Carlton Doi, Chieko Endo, Taeko Endo, Takao Fuji, Yasuko Fujimori, Reverend Hogen Fujimoto, Hideo Fukuya, Reverend Hakushi Futaba, Susan Hamamoto, David Toshiro Hara, Chogoro Harada, Take Harada, Kiyo Harano, Yoshinori Hatakeyama, Konoe Hirota, Yoshito Hiyama, Brian Honda, A. Hori, Reverend Satoru Hori, Kishiko Hoshide, Kondo Ikeda, Minai Ikeda, Tsukiko Ikeda, Chuichi Inouchi, Kensuke Inoue, Sadaichiro Isono, Katsumi Kaida, Yasuko Kameyama, Aki Kanada, Jin Kanesaki, Takeno Kanesaki, Fusayo Kaneshige, Sakai Rose Kaneshige, Toshio Kano, Arthur Kanzaki, Kazuo Kato, Mitsue Kato, Mieko Kawabata, Glenn Kawamoto, Tamae Kawata, Masako Kayatani, Kiyoshi Kimura, Hakuichi Kinoshita, Kimiko Kobori, Shina Kobori, Kent Masao Koizumi, Rose Kurotori, Hina Maeda, Roger Matoi, Shigeru Matsuda, Chikara Matsui, Cho Saburo Matsui, Minoru Matsumoto, Gisaburo Matsutani, Isamu Matsutani, Yachio Matsutani, Matsuko Minamidani, Arthur Misaki, Kieko Mitsuda, Fred Miyamoto, Yaeno Mizuki, Haruko Mizushina, Takichi Motomura, Itsu Mukuno, Baby Muranishi, Mitsuko Nagafuji, Ima Nagai, Maki Najima, Mokichi Nakagawa, Grace Nakagiri, Wakichi Nakai, Tadashi Nakamura, Frank Nakao, Tsunetaro Nakaya, Yoshi Natsuhara, Tora Negi, Daniel Neishi, Torao Neishi, Leroy Nitta, Hiroshi Noda, Bob Shoichi Nomura, Morris Nomura, Hisakusu Ogawa, Misao Ohara, Hisai Okemoto, Konoe Ota, Takashi Otsuka, Kenji Makana Rasi, Bill Sakakura, Kimiko Sasaki, Fusa Sato, Genjiro Sato, Masao Sato, Masako Shibata, Mineko Shigematsu, Juhei Takata, Ken Takayama, Momoko Takesaka, Harunori Tamichi, Fuji Tamori, Shigeoki Tanaka, Chiyogi Tanisawa, Hisayoshi Tanisawa, Yone Tarada, Garrett Tunen, Richard Tsutakawa, Billy Takako Watahara, Hisao Ehara, Kakutaro Yamabe, Ichiro Yamamoto, Katsuyo Yamamoto, Miharu Yamamoto, Misao Yamamoto, Shichiroemon Yamamoto, Toyo Yamamoto, Miyuki Yamasaki, Shin Yasuda, Michie Yokomizo, Mitsuo Yokomizo, Motoemon Yokomizo, Giichi Yoshioka, Evelyn Yoshisato, George Yoshisato. Okay, next we'll have Sutra chanting. Oh, it filled up over here, good. And today we're going to chant Sanbutsuge, which is on page 22 in the small book, page 79 in the large book, and you can chant along or think about your loved ones that are being honored during the chanting. And give me just a minute. I wasn't going to show the words on the screen for the online people, but I want to. So give me just a second to get set up. Okay. Namandab, 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 namandab. Kogen gigi, ijin mugok, nyozen myo, tosha, nichigatsumani, shuko enyo, kai shitsu onpei, yunyaku jumok, nyorai yogen, chose murin, shogaku daion, koru jippo, kaimon shojin, sanmai chie, itoku muryo, shushokeu, jintai zennen, shobutsu hokai, gujin jin no, kugo gaitai, mumyo yokunu, seson yomu, nin no shishi, jin toku muryo, kukun kodai, chie jin myo, komyo iso, shindo daisen, ganga sabutsu, zai shoho, kado shojin, mifugedatsu, fusejoi, kainin shojin, nyoze sanmai, chie ijo, gosei tokubutsu, fugyo shigan, isai kuku, isa dayan, keshi ubutsu, yakusen okuman, muryo daisho, shunyo koja, kunyo isai, shito shobutsu, funyo gundo, ken 小不客非女語者小仏世界不不可け無種節度光明師匠変師匠国如是精進異人難女両が差別国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音任務闘争がと愛民道達一切実法来生心熱症状意図が国経楽安穏好物神妙是が心象発願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上領子孫知が信用軽量心死食毒中が行精進忍辱不敬ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにしくどく平等性際道本菩大心往生安楽国ナモ阿弥陀仏ナモ阿弥陀仏ナモ阿弥陀仏ナマンダナマンダ。Okay, let's do something a little different. Today, let's also chant Sankiemon. This is the Three Treasures in Japanese. It's on page 6 in the big purple book, and it's at the front of the Japanese book if you can read Japanese. So when we chant Three Treasures in regular services, that's an English translation of this, what we're going to do here. Sankiemon. Ninjin ukegatashi ima sudeni yuku, buppo kikigatashi ima sudeni kiku, konomi konjo ni mukatte dose zumba, sarani izure no sho ni mukatte ka konomi o dosen, daishu moro tomo ni shishi ni sambo ni kieshi tatematsuru beshi. Mizu kara butsu ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shujo to tomo ni, daido o taige shite mujo io okosan, mizu kara ho ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shujo to tomo ni, fukaku kyozo ni irite chie umi no gotoku naran, mizu kara so ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku wa shujo to tomo ni, daishu o tori shite issai muge naran, mujo jinjin mimyo no ho wa hyakusen go ni mo ayo goto gatashi, ware ima kenmonshi juji suru koto o etari, negawaku wa nyorai no shinjitsugi o geshi tatematsuran. I go to the Buddha for guidance. Oh, you can repeat after me. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Naman Nam Naman. Sorry about that. That's how we do it at Concord Hoakai, actually. We just read the Japanese one, the Sankiemon, like I just did, and then at the end, in English, just simply say, I go to the Buddha for refuge or for guidance, right? That's kind of the translation of that. So maybe we can start doing that here, too. And it's a nice way to keep doing some of the kind of more Japanese traditions, which I might address a little bit today, but also be able to say it in English so we know what we're actually saying. Right? So thank you very much for joining us once again. I'll just ask, and I've been asking this a lot, have you been saying Nembutsu in your daily life? Right? That's it's not a challenge, it's more of a request to just remember Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu is such an important part of our Buddhism, of our Shin Buddhism, right? It's the core, in a way, right? It's the core practice for sure. And so we shouldn't just be saying it at church after I say it. Right? Ideally, you're saying it on your own, whenever, at home, at work, in the car, in the shower, whenever, right? And that we kind of get used to saying it, because saying the name, saying the Nembutsu is just so fundamental to our kind of Buddhism. So today, I'd just like to talk a little bit about, I'll give you the big word, egalitarianism. It's kind of a clunky word, right? Maybe equality might be another way to put it, right? This kind of egalitarian ideal. I guess I realized as I looked into it a little bit, realized how naive I am maybe, thinking of America as kind of an example of an egalitarian country. I like to think that egalitarianism and equality are core fundamental principles of America, of the United States of America. I could be wrong. It's not a monolithic thing, too. We can look and find changes in egalitarian ideals over time, right? And so the one that I looked up, I didn't bring it. I had a Kennedy $50 down in my office, right? And the kids probably never even seen that before, right? This giant coin that has John F. Kennedy's profile on it, right? 50 cents. We don't use those anymore, right? And then I was like, why don't I have a Susan B. Anthony dollar, right? That would be relevant, right? Because we got to remember, women didn't have the right to vote in the United States until what, 1919, 1920? It's only been 105 years. How old is America? Didn't we do bicentennial back in 1976, right? So America's way longer than 200 years old, and yet women have only been able to vote for about 100 of those years. Might differ by state, right? But for the nation, the right for women to vote, right? It hasn't been egalitarian in all of its history, for sure, right? But here's one example, right? That in America, women couldn't vote until 1920. And even after that, I mean, I'm not going to get into this part, racial equality, right? That's something we're still working on. And even when maybe women were granted the right to vote, that didn't mean all women, right? Realistically, it meant white women, and that women of color, African American ancestry, Asian ancestry, whatever, couldn't vote until later. And so that was, just kind of thinking, okay, but isn't it about liberty and justice for all? Right? Isn't that part of our American story? Right? And not liberty and justice for some, for a few, right? No, it's supposed to be for everyone, right? And so this kind of egalitarian ideal that I still see in the United States of America. Right? And so the reason I started thinking about that was thinking about equality in Shin Buddhism. Right? So I think that our Shin Buddhism, or Jodo Shinshu, has some egalitarian ideals. Now Buddhism, there's a lot of different kinds of Buddhism, a lot of different attitudes. Even in Pure Land Buddhism, which our Shin Buddhism is part of, there's different ideas. Right? And so, but I think we can see it. So one is in what we chanted at the end of the sutra, Ganni Shiku Doku Byodo Seisai Dohotsu Bodai Shin Ojo Anako. Right? The echo at the end. Ganni Shiku Doku, may this merit, Byodo Seisai, be given equally to all beings. Right? So that Byodo is this expression of equality in Buddhism. Not just Pure Land Buddhism, basically Buddhism in general. Right? So I think that's one area we can see it, that Amida Buddha's vow is for everyone equally. Another example of that, in the Wasans, Shinran uses an expression, Byodo Kaku. Byodo Kaku ni kimyo seyo. Right? Take refuge in Byodo Kaku. Kaku is awakening, like Bodhi, and Byodo is equality. So this awakening of equality. Reverend Dr. Matsumoto, Reverend Dr. David Matsumoto, I think he came up with a way to translate that as the wisdom of non-discrimination. The wisdom of non-discrimination. Amida Buddha doesn't discriminate. Right? Amida Buddha accepts you as you are. You don't have to feel like, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough degrees, I'm not this, I'm not that, so I'm not like them. Oh, they're great, they're this amazing person, but not me, Amida Buddha, why would they accept me? No, that is a hallmark of Amida Buddha's compassion, that Amida Buddha accepts each one of us as we are, each of you as you are, sono mama. And so this idea of Amida's awakening as Byodo Kaku. Another architectural thing we can see this equality in. Now, some kinds of Buddhism, it's the monks. The monks are the ones that are doing the thing, and the lay people are just supporting them. Right? So if you go to other temples, like Ennyakuji in Mount Hiei is an example, Tendaishu, right, which is the school that Honen and Shinran broke away from. Right? But at Ennyakuji, this area, the Naijin, where the ministers are and where the Buddha images are, is huge. And there's like a little strip of tatami for the average people. Right? So it'd be like if the Naijin went from here to like the back 2 pews maybe, and the back 2 pews, there were seats for what, 20 people? Right? And that all this area is Buddha land. But the samsara part is out there. That's not what you see here. That's not what you see at our home temple, Honzan, Nishihonganji in Kyoto. That's not what you see in Jodo Shinshu temples. Jodo Shinshu temples, the Gejin is bigger. Right? The area where you're sitting, the Gejin, where the average person sits, that's bigger. And that the Naijin area for the ministers is much smaller. So to me, that is kind of an architectural, spatial representation of the egalitarianism of Jodo Shinshu. This equality, right? That it's not that the monks are better. And that's the problem with temples in America. I'm up here. It's kind of nice because you can all look up and see me. But in Japan, when the minister speaks, they leave the Naijin and they're down on the tatami, same level as everyone else. So as much as I like the optics of you being able to see me better, right? Ideally, I would be down there speaking to you, right? With you, same level, right? This egalitarianism, this equality. And so that kind of, that monk and lay kind of distinction, other kinds of Buddhism, seriously, the lay people, I mean, you know, there's kind of a Buddhist modernism that says, no, lay people can meditate too, and lay people this, that. But I think many, if not most kinds of Buddhism, the monks are the ones meditating, and the monks are the ones aiming for enlightenment. Lay people are supporting the monks, hoping for a better rebirth maybe in the future. But Shinran, and he's not the only one, he gets this from the Seven Masters and others, he uses this expression, dozoku jishu. Dozoku jishu. Ji is like time, like the present. Shu is like assembly. And it's the present assembly of do, ministers or monks, zoku, lay people. Zoku myo is like your lay name. Ho myo is your Buddhist name. Zoku myo is your lay name or conventional name. Right? So zoku is lay people. Do is ministers. Dozoku jishu, to. Right? Dozoku jishu is, Shinran uses it at the end of Shoshinge. All people of the present, whether monastics or lay. We're all equal, right? Ministers aren't better than the other people, right? We're all equal in Shinshu. All right, I'm going to give you one more, and this one's more detailed, but it comes from Shan Dao. So I mentioned seven masters, and one of those masters is Shan Dao. He's a Chinese monk. His dates are 613 to 681. So this is a long time ago, 1,500 years ago, almost, right? And he's the fifth master of the seven masters. It's so important, really important for Honen, but important for Shinran too. So in the sutras themselves, even the Pure Land Sutras, the larger sutra talks about 3 grades of practitioners. So this is more hierarchical, right? Another big word, hierarchy, right? People at the top, people at the middle, people at the bottom, right? We got this hierarchy. We can split them into different levels. And they say people of the high grade, the top grade, they are people who awaken the mind, aspiring for enlightenment. They become monks. They follow the precepts. They do this and that. They're going to get the best birth. People in the middle, not as good as the high, but, you know, they're pretty good. They get a medium birth. And then the low level, you don't have to do that much, but you don't meet the real Buddha. Kind of like a hologram Buddha comes and gets you. You know, it's a lowest level, lower level birth. And then there's called the Contemplation Sutra. You thought 3 was a lot. 9 grades. Okay, so there's 3, and then each of the 3 has top, middle, and low. So there's a top grade, middle grade, and lowest grade, and then there's top of the top, middle of the top, lowest of the top of the middle of the middle, lowest of the middle, top of the bottom, middle of the bottom, lowest of the low. Okay? And so I picked one, and this is from the sutra. The Buddha said to Ananda and Vaidehi, those who attain birth in the highest grade of the middle rank are as follows. Suppose there are sentient beings who keep the 5 precepts, observe the 8 abstinences, practice in accordance with various precepts, and refrain from committing the 5 grave offenses and other wrongdoings. They aspire to be born in the world of perfect bliss in the Western Quarter by directing these merits. When this practicer is about to die, Amida Buddha comes to them, surrounded by monks and attendants, emitting golden light, expounding the truths of suffering, emptiness, immanence, and no self. The Buddha praises renunciation of the world as the way for parting from various sufferings. So there are like qualifications, right? So this person in the middle, highest of the middle, right, is they keep the 5 precepts. We don't do that. Have you taken any precepts? A couple I think have. I haven't, right? So I'm not in this grade for sure, right? Keep the 5 precepts. Observe the 8 abstinences. So there are 8 things you don't partake of. I would think probably like onions might be in there. I bet alcohol is in there. Maybe some other things we could think of. I'm not sure what the 8 abstinences are, right? But there are things you refrain from doing I don't do that. I eat onions. I get onion on my hamburger, right? Practice in accordance with various precepts, refrained from committing, right? And then it says, the Buddha praises renunciation of the world as the way for this level. Renunciation of the world. That means leave your family, leave the world, leave everyday life, and become a monastic. Right? Go off to a monastery and become a monastic. Right? And so that's off limits for many people, right? We just can't do that. And so am I not able to get this kind of middle level birth? Now, the interesting thing about Shan Dao is he looks at these 9 grades, collapses them into one. So that the stuff available to the top level, it talks about 3 minds, kind of like the larger sutra, and it has birth in the Pure Land, just the highest level birth is available to everyone, and yet everyone is lowest of the low. Shan Dao himself self-identifies as lowest of the low, not as a high-level person. Right? So rather than this hierarchy of sages and qualified people, and then ordinary, if not foolish and evil people at the bottom, right? Instead, boom, everyone equal. Right? This egalitarian view of this, rather than a hierarchical one. Right? And so that's this other example I've thought of that I wanted to share. And it's a very obscure point of doctrine. And it's part of the problem when if I just hand you the 3 sutras and say, read these, you don't get the whole story. There's a lot of interpretation going on after the fact, right? And Shan Dao is one of the most important people to make these interpretations that Shinran receives, right? So that Shinran as well. Monks, bad monks, farmers, fishermen, hunters, people that were almost untouchable at his time, merchants, peddlers, women, all able to be born in the Pure Land, all embraced by Amida's vow. No distinction on Amida's part to say, you're not good enough, you're not a man, you're not a monk, you're not whatever. Amida doesn't do that, right? Amida embraces each one of us. Right? And so we don't have to feel like I'm not good enough, right? So this egalitarianism. That's one of the reasons I feel like Jodo Shinshu is perfect as an American religion. Right? To me, it lives up to some of the ideals that I see for the United States of America, of this kind of equality and egalitarian view of people, right? That each person has worth, not that some people have less worth than others. Yeah. So if that's what America's about, which might be questionable, then to me, Jodo Shinshu fits. Now, thinking about BCO and equality, I was trying to think, so I got to come up with some examples of equality at BCO. So one thing I kind of thought of was Bazaar, right? Aren't we kind of equal in some ways at Bazaar, all working hard? We have different tasks. Not everyone does. It's not like everyone has to line up and do the same thing. And yet, all of us working for this common goal. Right? And then we have leaders, right? It'll be chaos. Could you imagine Bazaar with nobody in charge? There'd be absolute chaos, right? So we have leaders, right? And yet, equal, right? All working towards this same goal. Maybe Obon too, right? We do the Obon festival, and there's distinctions, right? And yet, it's not like this group is better than that group or something, or this person's better than that person. But then I started thinking, what about like the names of the list that I read? What did those people do, especially Issei, the first generation, right? Those first generation members, what did they do? What kind of professions did they have? What did they do with their lives? So I started making a list, and Mr. Minamoto in the back helped me work on this a little bit. The nursery people, right? Flower growers. We're big here. We don't see it so much anymore, but I heard, San Leandro, Richmond, with a lot of nurseries, right? And people growing flowers. Adachi nursery, all these different places where people were growing flowers. Oh, I could think of others too. I don't know the names of some of the companies, all right? Gardeners, right? A lot of people in a JA community, Japanese community, doing gardening. Cleaners or laundry kind of places, right? Farmers, Maybe not so much here at Oakland, right, because we're a city, right? But certainly BCA, if we look at Japanese American, all over, that a lot of farmers. And I think there probably were farmers here too. I think of like San Jose, you would think, oh, that's right in the middle of the Silicon Valley. Isn't that like totally urban? It's like, no, there was a lot of farms down there, and those got sold that could become Silicon Valley, right? That we could have these places with a different kind of industry. But there was a lot of farming going on, right? Insurance, because of Mr. Lost a Lot too, right? That there was a lot of people in insurance. There were teachers, mechanics. And then we're going to split. We're going to go first to second generation, maybe. That it's not like a easy dividing line, but also clothing and like alterations, right? Grocery, right? Grocery market, which sold more than just vegetables, right? Cooks, people that worked in food and did cooking, right? Business owners, people that had their own businesses. That's one of the neat things about the China, quote-unquote, Chinatown, right? Oakland Chinatown used to be like, what, quarter to a third Japantown, right? That this is one of the historic Japantowns of the United States, right? And internment changed that, right? And so that's why we don't have Oakland Japantown now, but we did up until 1942. Right? Mining, maybe not so much here, right? But there were people doing mining, railroad, people working on the railroad, if we go way back, right? I remember when I was in Lodi, I saw an exhibit, and there were people, and I'm not going to use the term that they use for them, but some of the Japanese men, they would go up on ropes. This is dangerous work, right? To go up on ropes to stick the dynamite in the wall, the rock walls, to make roads and railroad kind of stuff, right? And so like they would give that job to the Japanese, maybe partly because they're smaller, and you can imagine kind of small, wiry, muscular Japanese men like climbing up, and doing this stuff. But I'm sure also because it's dangerous. I don't want to do that. Make him do it, right? And then also newspaper, Hokubei, Nichibei Times, right? So that's just thinking, I bet a lot of the names of people that I read, I keep pointing over here to the book, right? The Shotsuki book, there were a lot of different people in the community, right? And yet able to be part of a temple community, right? And that, and of course, there's ideal and there's in practice, and maybe not everyone is absolutely equal, right? And yet, I feel like that the Jodo Shinshu is open for anyone and everyone. I was also kind of thinking, is this a gendered list, right? These things, and that I think a lot of the time maybe women, if they were lucky, they were able to be a housewife and just take care of the family. But I think a lot of women worked too, right? In homes, at the stores. They may not get credit for the work that they did, right? But the work of women too, I think extremely important, again, with that gender equality, right? That they weren't actually equally honored, I think, and equally considered for the labor that they did. And yet, they're part of this too. I was thinking about my own father. So my father's side is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, even though the Protestant wasn't so big, in Maine. My dad was born in 1929, and his father was a shop owner. He had his own store. And we used to have this big black floor mat, and it said Harry P. Bridge on it. The name was written on it. That came from the store that my grandfather had, right? So this kind of business owner. But he died in 1932 at like age 30 of appendicitis, misdiagnosed appendicitis, and it burst and he died when my dad was 3. So my mom, my grandmother, had to make a living. So the house became a boarding house, and she took in boarders and labor, right? She worked because of the family circumstances, right? And so that's a non-Japanese American, non-Japanese story, but it's an American story, right? White Anglo-Saxon, not, maybe not discriminated against in some ways, and yet things happen, right? So that my grandmother had to work and had to do those things. So just kind of reflecting on this and thinking, for your loved ones, if you're, maybe they were more recent, 3rd generation or whatever, 4th generation, and we can certainly see changes in the Japanese American community overall, right? And education-wise, and, things I think changed my impression is 60s, 70s, more opportunities became available, maybe because racial equality was happening in the 50s more for Japanese people. I think the temple was really kind of a refuge from the discrimination of the outside world, right? And so this, again, this equality. You didn't have equality outside, but if you were of Japanese descent, you could come here and feel not less discrimination, not discriminated against, right? So I think this idea of discrimination and non-discrimination, equality, right, we can see just in the history of our temple, but we can also see it in our Buddhism. I really feel like Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, Shin Buddhism, has this as a core value, this equality, right? So that you don't have to feel like I'm less. We're all different, equal, not identical. You don't have to be exactly the same. We can have different jobs. You can be yourself, right? And yet equal at the same time. So I want to conclude the Dharma message with, let's just conclude with Kansho. Actually, let's do that. Repeat after me, and we'll do the three refuges again in English. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Okay, and let me just make a couple of brief announcements. Our Obon dance practices are beginning tomorrow, and so you should have got the email. Tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, 7 p.m., Obon dance practice here. Okay, and then the next week is off, and then the week before Obon, there's 3 more. And I don't want to mess up the dates, so look at the email, or you can look at the website for the dates for the Obon dance practice. The festival itself, it's kind of nice. It seems like the next couple of weeks, not much going on. We don't have Sunday service, so nothing's happening. There's so much work going on behind the scenes, right? Getting ready for the Obon Festival and the service. So Obon Festival on August 2nd, that's first Saturday in August, and then the Obon, Hatsubon and Obon services on Sunday morning on August 3rd. We will have another Intro to Buddhism kind of study class on August 9th. That's the Saturday after. And what else exciting happening? Our regular services will start on September 7th, the first Sunday after Labor Day, like usual. So why don't we sing Ondokusan II? And so we'll have to do it a cappella, which is what we do at Concord. So we're getting kind of the Concord Hoakai kind of vibe here today. Page 76 in the small book, page 220 in the large book for Ondokusan II. I have it memorized, but I like to look at the words so I don't mess it up. Okay, ready, go. Nyorai dai no ondoku wa miyoko ni shite mo hozu beshi shishu chishiki no ondoku mo hone o kudakite mo shasu beshi. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Okay, this will conclude our July Shotsuki monthly memorial and adult Dharma service. You can come up and offer incense and visit Nokotsudo if you've not had the chance to do so already, and hang out a little bit downstairs. Thank you.